Fort Worth, Texas police officer. On October 12, 2019, he responded to a call from a concerned neighbor who saw the door of the home next door open in the middle of the night. When Dean responded, he checked the front of the house and began walking around the side when he saw a Tatiana Jefferson through the window. And that's when this happened.
Put your hands up! Show me your hands!
Tatiana was shot and killed. She was in the home babysitting her nephew. Now, former Officer Dean is charged with her killing, and today he took the stand.
I heard her scream and saw her fall like this, and I knew that I had shot that person.
And tonight, our body language experts take a closer look at his testimony. But first, 4 University of Idaho students stabbed and killed in their off-campus residence. The murders, originally described as a crime of passion, now described as a targeted attack. It's been a month and still no one has been arrested for this violent, horrific crime. Tonight, new details about the wounds from Kaylee's father, saying they were more than a simple stabbing. Was she the target? Also, reports over the weekend of a convicted killer with a knife arrested in Moscow, Idaho. We have the details as the search for this dangerous killer continues. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us. And we're going to begin with the story in Idaho because still no one has been arrested. And when you think about this case, you have to think about the impact that this horrific murders have had on so many different levels. It is a case, obviously, that everyone is talking about coast to coast. But let's start by zeroing in. You've got 4 victims in this case who lost their lives, who had so much to live. I mean, this is the point of your life where you are becoming that adult, getting ready for that next phase. And to have that taken away, to have that stolen, is unforgivable. And in the way in which it happened, you're in your home and you are sleeping, and someone creeps in and takes your life. We still don't know who, we still don't know why, but 4 lives are gone. And you think about the impact, obviously, on the victims who don't get to live the rest of their lives, and then you go and you take a look at their families. Guys like Steve Goncalves, who is Kaylee's father, also a victim. And you see it and you hear it in everything that he does. Right now, he's at the point, right? You can't make sense of this, but you know you've lost your daughter, and now, okay, what do? Do you just, go quietly and sit in the corner? That's not what dads do. He wants justice. And I've said this countless times through the years, but when a parent loses a child, or you lose any loved one, and you've got that gaping void in your life that will never get filled, you never get closure, the only thing they can get is justice. And when that is being denied, it becomes almost unbearable. And that's what he is going through right now, and he's speaking out and he's lashing out. And he is going to keep the pressure on the public to come forward with information that they may have, put pressure on the killer, and keep pressure on investigators. That he's not going to forget, that he's not going to rest, that he's not going to sleep until there's an arrest and a prosecution. That's where he is and many other family members are. Also a victim. Additional victims in all of this, the entire community, especially the University of Idaho. The community's been rocked and shocked and shaken like they've never been before. This was a school, I mean, I didn't know much about the University of Idaho. I didn't apply there, I've never visited there. But from speaking with people and hearing them talk about what life was like before this quadruple mass murder and after, incredibly different. And you think about what life is like for all those students now. Anytime they meet someone, talk to someone, whether it's a family at the holidays, what are they going to be talking about? They're going to be talking about this murder. They should be talking about, you know, these incredible experiences that they're having in college and what they're learning and what they're going to work on next. But inevitably, the conversation will always come back to this case. And whether they're at their 5-year reunion, 10-year reunion, 20-year reunion, they'll always be connected to this case. And that's a shame on the one hand. On the other hand, the victims will not be forgotten. So that's good. But it'd be better if there were no victims, obviously. So there was a graduation, midterm graduation ceremony that took place at the University of Idaho. And it was clear that, yeah, it's a time to celebrate the graduates, but this is at the top of everyone's mind. Take a listen. Here's C. Scott Green, the president of the University of Idaho, at that ceremony.
It's been a tough few weeks for our community, and I want to acknowledge an enormous loss in our Vandal family recently. Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Maddie Mogan, and Kaylee Consalvis were taken from us far too soon by a senseless act of violence. They were bright lights on our campus and cherished members of our community. Let's honor their memory with a moment of silence right now, followed by a song from the Vandaliers that honors the students we lost, as well as those students graduating today.
And you see how difficult that is. I mean, for the president, he's trying to make this an occasion to celebrate the graduates and their families and loved ones are there, and those students worked extremely hard to get those degrees and to have that moment. But you can't separate it from this other incredible tragedy. So impact everywhere. And that impact, I think, is felt greater until you get an arrest and you figure out who and why. And that has not been answered yet. Let me bring in tonight's guest. Joining me tonight in Los Angeles, California, Caitlin Becker, senior reporter for DailyMail.com, who obviously on top of this story, and in Monroe, North Carolina, death investigator, forensic criminologist, Dr. Laura Pettler is with us as well. Great to see both of you. Caitlin, when I can't imagine what it's like for that community, for these students, for parents, not even just parents of the victims. That's obviously like they're, at a loss. But even parents of other students, this is on the top of their minds.
This has to be terrifying. I have to imagine if you are a member of this community, if you are a student at this school, you are petrified every single night when you go to sleep. The cops say it's a targeted attack, but that isn't something they're 100% sure of. There's no public persons of interest or suspect announced, and there just doesn't seem to be any huge movement on the case from the public's perspective. So if you're in this community, you're going to be scared. And ahead of this commencement, the authorities were warning people to be vigilant, to be careful. This was a big, this is a big event, a ton of students, who knows what's going to happen. That's really scary.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to put on the screen, Laura, something from Fox News report, and this was Kaylee's father speaking out. And I said he's been loud and he's been very direct, and for obvious reasons. Stephen Goncalves said he asked the coroner, Kathy Mabbutt, how many times the victims were stabbed. She says, "Sir, I don't think stabs is the right word. It was like tears. Like this was a strong weapon, not like a stab," he told Fox News Digital on Sunday. She said these were big open gouges. She said it was quick. These weren't something where you were going to be able to call 911. They were not going to slowly bleed out, he said. And there he's describing what happened to his daughter, and he said there's a distinction between the wounds that his daughter suffered and that Maddie, who was in the same bed with her, suffered. What does that tell you? Does that make it seem more likely that Kaylee may have been the target of the killer here?
I think, you know, Vinny, the first thing to remember is that it's his interpretation of what the coroner's saying. So, you know, we don't have the case file, so I don't want to speculate and potentially put misinformation out there. But yes, is it possible that the victims experienced different types of wounds inflicted by one or more parties involved in this incident? Absolutely. But yes, it also is important to remember that during the wound pattern analysis phase of any kind of investigation like this, they are identified and analyzed individually, but then we cross-compare them too. So that's where they're getting this piece of, well, you know, Kaylee was victimized differently than maybe some of the other victims were. So yes, it can be indicative of that, but it can also be indicative of other characteristics and psychology of the offender. So to speculate, you know, could be misleading. So I want to keep it in frame, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And what we're wondering is, because we keep hearing the word targeted and trying to understand who's targeted, why are they targeted?
Yes.
And it has a couple of reasons. One is I believe it's the way to lead to the killer here, because I don't know if the DNA is going to do it. Because if this killer never killed before and they're not on 23andMe, then the DNA helps guys like me when it's time to prosecute someone. But first, you got to catch them.
Right. Yes, exactly. And sometimes in certain types of homicide, the forensic evidence is not as valuable as in other types, such as intimate partner homicide. Sometimes if it's in a marital residence, you expect all of that to be there. In this particular case, because it was a house that housed 6 different people, at least at this point, that we know about, there are definitely lots of people coming in and out. When you think of all the friends that college kids have, it's very normal for them to have all of these kids come in and out, for everybody to be socializing. So the police have a very daunting task to try to separate any kind of DNA evidence to be determined whether a piece of evidence that's DNA is actually forensically significant, or if it's just part of the actual scene itself. You know, what is the determining factor? Clearly, where the DNA is, and especially the fact that if it is in liquid blood, Vinny, that is huge. You know, if an offender cuts him or herself as the hand slides down the blade, and then the offender's liquid blood gets mixed with the victim's liquid blood, there is only one explanation for that, typically, and that is that they are bleeding at the same time during the same event.
Absolutely. And if you talk about any other DNA, I know what the defense attorney is going to say. Well, you know, they were there at that house many times because there were parties 5 nights a week at that house. Caitlin, let's talk about Kaylee's father again, because he's been very, very outspoken. And he seems to be harboring a level of frustration at this point, where he wants more information released than's being released. And he is very concerned, it seems, that investigators may be in over their heads here.
I think that's totally understandable, and I have to imagine all of the families in this situation are feeling a level of frustration. We're almost a month into this with no answers, and based on what we're hearing from Steve Gonsalves, he's not getting answers from the police either. So it's not just something that they're not releasing publicly, they're not telling the victims' families as well. That has to be, you know, really unsettling when all you're looking for, you know, in the beginning of this video, you were saying that this man wants justice. Right now, before justice, I think he wants answers, and he's not getting those either, which is a concern. And absolutely do I think the Moscow police are in over their head. Of course they are. This is a small community that had not had a murder for 7 years. However, the FBI is involved. They have 46 people working on this across the country. So it is not like they're going in this with a teeny tiny police force. There's a wide amount of law enforcement that's working on this. But as you just heard described from the blood alone that could potentially be in this house, there is a ton of evidence that needs to be processed, and it's going to take a very long time.
I want to put up on the screen something else from Fox News report, that the victims' hands were bagged at the scene. The hands of 4 murder victims stabbed in their house off of the University of Idaho campus on November 13th may hold evidence that's crucial to the unsolved case. As part of their crime scene preservation, Idaho investigators bagged the victims' hands in an effort to save possible clues before moving their bodies out of the crime scene, the county coroner told Fox News. Laura, it comes back again to that issue of DNA, right? And trying to see if there's anything on the victims that connects them to their killer. If there is DNA somewhere on their hands, how do you find it? How are you going to find the killer that way? I mean, unless this killer's killed before or is in the system, it doesn't seem like it's going to lead to an arrest.
So I think there's a couple things to recognize pursuant to the DNA that you're talking about there, Vinny. The first thing is it's very common and it's proper procedure for everybody's hands to be bagged at a scene of this nature. Any victim, any decedent, they should be bagged. But not only is it DNA evidence, but it's also trace evidence. There's also science out there where fingerprints, for example, can be taken off of human skin. That has been developed. So not only can there be DNA on the skin, well, clearly it's going to be predominantly the victim, but there could be a mixture of DNA, there could be other trace evidence, there could be fiber evidence, there could be hair evidence, there could be other types of evidence. So bagging hands, bagging feet is standard procedure. The second piece that goes along with that, from my perspective, that I like to see crime scene investigators do in every case of this nature is to lay a white sheet out on the body bag before you place the body into the bag, because again, just like bagging the hands, you're putting that extra layer of protection in there, catching any debris or trace evidence or anything that might contain DNA into that white sheet. So then the whole thing goes to the medical examiner's office and is processed in a controlled environment. That way we can maximize any potential that we might have to collect a specimen that would lead to a killer.
And I'm sure they're working hard. There's no doubt they've been working through holidays, working through the weekends, etc. Our guests are staying with us. Caitlin Becker from DailyMail.com, senior reporter there, and Laura Pettler, death investigator. We're going to talk more about it. There's some new information coming out from investigators. We'll give you the latest from there. Plus, coming up next hour on this program. In Oakland County, Michigan, the Oxford school shooter who took the lives of 4 classmates has been convicted of his crimes. But now, prosecutors are going after his parents. Jennifer and James Crumbly have been charged with involuntary manslaughter for their alleged role in the school shooting. And they are still in jail trying to get their bond reduced. Should they be locked up, and can prosecutors actually win this first-of-its-kind case?
I'm 100% confident that we will convict the Crumblies. I think the evidence is overwhelming.
Tuesday, a Court TV exclusive.
It was the trial of the year, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard.
Now, Court TV's Chanley Painter sits down with Camille Vasquez and Johnny Depp's entire legal team.
Is being a part of the world's most high-profile trial, does it have a downside?
Plus, Depp attorney Ben Chu joins us live.
A closing argument special 2-night event. The interview with Johnny Depp's legal team, Tuesday, 8/7 Central, only on
Pre-licensed everything.
I would just like to add that we should always be vigilant. Certainly we should be vigilant now, but we should make that a way of life for us. We should always be walking with our head up, sticking to lighted paths, and walking in groups if we can. And in addition, letting people know when you've arrived home if you have not made prior arrangements. This is not an indication of a specific elevated risk, but something that we should be vigilant with just in our daily lives.
Incredibly true, but incredibly sad. That's Captain Roger Lanier, Moscow Police Department out in Idaho. And life wasn't like that before this. Yeah, you stay vigilant, you be smart, but yeah, you go home, you don't need to lock your doors. People didn't think about it that way. There weren't murders here. This wasn't dangerous. It was a nice, safe college town. Everyone got along. Not anymore. Not anymore. The age of innocence gone at the University of Idaho. Unbelievable. Here's the captain with more of an update in terms of some of the information that they're looking for and what they can tell us at this point.
There's been a lot of questions about the white car that we've been interested in. We're looking for that car because we believe through our investigation that that car was in the area during the time of the murders. And we also believe that the occupant or occupants may have seen something. They may not know they have seen something. So we specifically want to talk to them, and we want to know who they are and what they might know or might be able to contribute to the investigation. Our analysts have spent hours sorting through and trying to come up with the most relevant tips first for the investigators to follow up on. They have re-interviewed some of the folks we've interviewed earlier in this investigation to clarify information. Sometimes when new information comes forward, the people that we've spoken to beforehand may have new insight on that. So it does often seem like we're backtracking, but we're really just trying to get the most important details and the best timeline that we can come up with. We have literally an army of analysts who have been sorting through videos that have been submitted through the FBI.gov Moscow upload site. Those videos are from all over town, gas stations, and specifically the area around King Road. We've been trying to use those videos to garner new information. As you can imagine, there's hours and hours and hours of videos, so it does take a lot of time.
Let's bring back in our guest, Caitlin Becker, senior reporter, dailymail.com, and Dr. Laura Pettler, death investigator, forensic criminologist. Caitlin, this police department has been very, I mean, they've spoken out, they've continued to keep the lines of communication open, but there's obvious limitations as to what they're saying. But they really have put a lot of focus on this white car.
They're trying to get any and all information they can about who may have been driving this particular 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai. Border Patrol agents have been alerted to keep an eye out for this vehicle. There is no license plate, so we're kind of just looking for anything that looks like that particular car. These are the photos they released. It is not the exact car. They're stock photos, but they're very interested in talking to someone about this specific thing. On that note, though, once they started looking for the driver of this white car, so many of the tips, this huge influx of tips have been coming in, are specifically about that. And there's a concern that it might clog up some really crucial information that could be lost in some of the other tips that aren't going to get looked at for some time.
I mean, it's good that the community is responding. I think. Absolutely. I mean, it seems like they are hoping that one of these tips leads to something, and sometimes someone may know something that they don't think is significant and ends up being very significant. But I'm intrigued by this car. If it's around the scene at the time, maybe they saw something, or maybe they are perhaps involved. Who knows? Who knows? Laura, your thoughts about the re-interviewing of people. I find that fascinating as well, going back and speaking to people. We just saw in the Delphi murders, they went back to re-interview someone from 5 years ago. Turns out to be the alleged killer, so can't hurt.
No, it definitely can't hurt, Vinny, and the victimology is many times the smoking gun. From the standpoint of, it identifies to investigators where there might be conflict between the victims and a particular person or group of people if it's more than one offender. So when we start out in an investigation like this, we start out with the basic questions, which we call tier 1. And then as you get deeper into the data, you can then extract like a tier 2 and tier 3. So as you understand the material more, then it develops more follow-up questions for certain people. And it's important to recognize that what the captain said is true. Not only is it true that we never know what's going on inside an investigation from like the DA's office standpoint or the police agency standpoint, but people that are seeing these behaviors in the offenders at this time and since the 4 weeks since the murders, they might not be understanding what they're seeing or what they've seen directly after the murders in the time period following the murders, and therefore going back and interviewing those witnesses again could bring to their awareness, yes, you know what, that break in routine that I just saw in my loved one or my friend, that is so unusual that they would do that. They've never done that before, and bring that to police attention. They don't, a lot of times witnesses just don't understand that what they're seeing and what they're hearing, what they feel, all those things are relevant to the investigation. They just don't, they don't know.
I want you to take a listen. This is Mary Ellen O'Toole, a former senior FBI profiler. Here's what she had to say about this case.
We want to look for somebody that has blended back into society, but someone who has a hatred, not necessarily for that specific person, but maybe for a group of people that that victim represented.
All right, Caitlin Becker, if you're looking along these lines for someone that the victim or victims may have represented, they're college students. What else is going on in their lives? What groups are they members of here?
We're looking at sororities and fraternities. I think we're also looking at, it's really hard to deny that these are 4 very beautiful young people who were popular. They had a lot of friends. They were very social. You know, it seems like that former profile is almost sort of indicating there's an incel theory that has been floating around that some people kind of think is something they're leaning towards, something it's not. That's an involuntary celibate person who would be going after the type of unattainable people that they can't get. But it's interesting that there's enough speculation about what a profile of this killer would be, but that the authorities specifically have chosen not to release that profile. And I would be curious, actually, from both of your perspectives, maybe if you could weigh in on why that would be, because from my perspective as a reporter, I feel like that would be helpful for us.
Go ahead, Laura.
So, Caitlin and Vinny, what I'm going to say about that is when you're developing an offender profile, there's several things that have to be taken into consideration. Of course, first, the victimology is first and foremost, but then we always want to look at 4 things whenever you're studying a type of homicide. And we want to, those 4 things are the scene or the crime dynamics, the scene characteristics, the victimology, and then all 3 of those things culminate into being able to discern certain aspects that are consistent with a victim or an offender profile. So not only do you profile the offender, but it's what common denominator of the victims, you know, from the standpoint that there are 4 of them here. So like, what is that common denominator between them that drew a particular person or persons to these group of kids? Just like you said, Caitlin, they are connected to sororities and fraternities, and for those reasons, very specifically, sometimes people are rejected, sometimes people are not included. It can definitely be a societal and cultural aspect of people that are related to each other and people that are jealous. I mean, this type of a homicide has a lot of those types of characteristics, and murder is typically simple. It's typically conflict resolution for the offender in some way.
Dr. Laura Pettler, Caitlin Becker, thank you both so much. Appreciate your time, your insight tonight. We'll talk again as we continue to cover this story. When we come back, folks, we're going to take you to Texas, trial that you're seeing here on Court TV. Aaron Dean used to be a Fort Worth police officer. Then he shot and killed a babysitter, and now he's been charged with killing her. Today, he took the stand. We're going to bring in our body language experts.
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because this jury needs to hear from me and hear the truth.
That's Aaron Dean. He is a former police officer with the Fort Worth, Texas Police Department. He's now been charged with killing a woman inside a home. I'm going to show you the body cam footage from that night. He was responding to a call from a neighbor who was concerned that the front door of the home next door was open all night. So in the wee hours of the morning, shows up with his partner and starts, you know, going around the house. Take a look.
Put your hands up. Show me your hands.
Aaron Dean shot and killed a woman inside. She wasn't a burglar. She didn't break in. She was babysitting that night. There she is on the right. That's a Tatiana Jefferson. She was babysitting for her nephew, Zion, who testified earlier in the trial. Aaron Dean is on the left. He was a police officer. And today he took the stand in his own defense, as you heard, as he said, so the jury can hear the truth. So we're going to take a look and listen to some of his testimony and bring in our experts, our body language experts. Joining us in Alexandria, Virginia, body language expert, New York Times bestselling author of You Can't Lie to Me, Janine Driver is with us. You can check her out on TikTok at Body Language Institute. And in Dallas, Texas, facial analysis expert Brian Galke also with us. Janine, Brian, thank you so much for being here. Let's get right to it. We're going to show a clip. Watch the clip, and then we're going to talk about what you pick up that maybe the rest of us aren't necessarily noticing. Again, this is the testimony of Aaron Dean, the officer who shot and killed Tatiana Jefferson.
As I said, I needed to see that person's hands, because the hands carry weapons. The hands are the threat to us. So I looked back after I got my light on, saw the silhouette again, and I was shouting at this time, shouting commands. Put up your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. And as I started to get that second phrase out, show me your hands, I saw the silhouette. I was looking right down the barrel of a gun. And when I saw the barrel of that gun pointed at me, and I fired a single shot from my duty weapon, and immediately had the flash from the muzzle reflecting off the window, and of course, as my weapon recoiled, the light was bouncing back in my face, so I couldn't see. When my vision cleared, then I observed the person that we now know as Miss Jefferson. I heard her scream and saw her fall like this. And I knew that I'd shot that person.
There's a lot going on there. Janine Driver, I'll start with you.
First of all, nice to see you, Vinny. Haven't seen you in a while. Happy to be back. A lot happening is right, for sure. What's missing here? Let's talk about the obvious thing, I think, which is sadness. You know, is this authentic sadness? I think that there's some distress here for sure. I'm going to talk about that in a second, about these deep exhales we're hearing with his lips slightly being separated. With severe sadness, the inner eyebrows are pulled together enough, Vinny, and we're just not seeing that here. We're not seeing massive distress in the forehead, which is concerning to someone like me who trains the FBI and the CIA and looking for authenticity. It's babies know how to manipulate us with crying. So crying is an overused emotion, often to get sympathy from the jury. So we have sadness with our chin. I can do sadness with my chin right now and even throw my eyebrows into it. So This type of crying, I kind of throw away because I'm looking for this inner eyebrows to pull together and forward and together, and I'm just not seeing it. But we do hear these exhales, and his lips are slightly parted. And when we hear this like exhale, these deep breaths, this is high stress and anxiety. This is frustration. So I do think here he's coming across as authentically telling the truth. I think he's amping it up a little bit on the emotions. He's using illustrators that are matching the story. Oftentimes when people lie, which we've seen in many cases, we've talked about here at Court TV on your show, Vinny, the illustrators won't match what they're talking about. So if I'm fishing, I want to see someone fishing. And so he's using both hands as his illustrators as he's telling a story. Could he be coached to do this? Potentially, but it's unlikely that he'd be congruent. Usually the hand gesture comes one beat before the word, and that's what we're seeing here. So I do think he's telling the truth. I think he's probably amping it up on the emotions a little bit.
Brian Galke, what are you seeing from Aaron Dean here?
So the first thing that didn't surprise me at all is that he wanted to be able to tell his side of the story, and that's because he has a larger upper lip. And so when we say phrases like keep a stiff upper lip, that's somebody who doesn't want to talk about things. So it's no surprise to me at all that that's what he wanted to talk about. A lot of his testimony today was around visual things that you could see. So he kept saying, I saw this, I see this. That's because he's got larger eyes, smaller ears. He's more of a visual learner when he's going and he's recalling those events. So you would be able to tell if he was coaxed a lot, if he was saying things that weren't visual by appearance, but very much what his face says about him is that he did want to talk about it because he has that fuller upper lip. He wanted to be able to talk. And even though that's not advised for a lot of people, he felt like that's what he needed to do.
I want to play another clip here. This one's much shorter, but this is at the moment, the most important moment, the moment where that decision is made to fire the weapon. Let's take a look and a listen.
I just saw the silhouette of the person and the gun. I don't recall seeing hands, but I did see that weapon pointed at me.
You're not saying the gun's on the floor?
No, the gun was pointed directly at me.
This is a crucial part of this case. Brian Galke, what do you think?
This one's one, again, I hear him saying the visual thing, so I do believe he's recalling what he saw in the past. But really, this is Janine's area of expertise for sure.
Go ahead, Janine.
Well, thanks, Brian. I love you, buddy. Nice to see you here on with Vinny. Two of my favorite men, handsome men. Listen, the big thing here is disgust. And disgust is one of the 7 universal emotions. I was just talking to a friend of mine, Jean, earlier today, that there's 7 emotions on our face that we can see. And it doesn't matter if you're from Russia, China, or here in the United States. And one of them is disgust. And it's this. And disgust is repelling contaminated objects. Years ago, I was on a Rachel Ray segment. A beautiful woman couldn't get a second date, and I wanted to find out why. All the guys liked her, but they all thought she didn't like them. Her laugh added a wrinkle to her nose. Her name's Nicole. We're still friends to this day. She's married with kids. But this is right here is disgust. It means I'm repelling contaminated objects. It is congruent with what he's saying, that he felt that there was a threat there, because these micro expressions are very hard to control. They happen right here in a 15th of a second. And the problem is this, Vinny, and you at home. We do not know what the catalyst is for the disgust. Is he repelling the contaminated object that he's now here in court, or that he lost his job, or that he was put in a dangerous spot, according to him?
All right, Janine Driver, Brian Galke will stay with us, and perhaps we'll get someone to analyze Janine's face when she referred to both of us, Brian, as handsome, see if she was telling the truth on that. Meanwhile, coming up in the next hour.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Amber Heard is appealing her devastating loss against her ex, Johnny Depp. Tonight, our think tank breaks down whether she has any chance. Plus, we get a preview of our 2-night special interview with Johnny Depp's legal team featuring Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu.
I wanted every single question to tie back to something she had said, either in a recording or had testified to under oath.
A former police officer on trial for murder after shooting a woman in her mother's home.
A place she should have been safe.
Human life is a precious thing and should not have been taken from Miss Jefferson.
Put your hands up, show me your hands.
This is a tough and tragic event.
Now his fate will rest in the hands of a jury.
The killed while babysitting trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 9/8 Central on Court TV. Go.
There are risks in police work, and I had to make a choice.
It wasn't a good idea, was it?
It was the only idea. It was the only way to do that.
Just like the only choice, is that just like you're telling the story, the only choice you had was to shoot and kill a Tatiana Jefferson.
Yes.
Cross-examination, I always say it's the true test of any witness who takes a stand, but this is the witness, not any old witness, this is the defendant, Aaron Dean, former police officer, accused of killing Tatiana Jefferson, and there he was testifying. He said he wanted to testify because he wanted the jury to hear the truth. Are they hearing the truth? Still with us, Janine Driver, body language expert, Brian Galke, facial analysis expert. Janine, what'd you think of this moment?
Oh, so he stutters and stammers a little bit, right? We hear that right out of the gate. So these start-stop sentences, they're like a scar on your body, Vinny. Have you ever cut your leg or your arm? Do you have any scars on your body?
I got a couple.
You got a couple. So what is it? A scar is a piece of skin has been removed and the other two pieces of skin are now attached together. So a verbal scar, when we start and stop these sentences or stutter, it's like a verbal scar. It's something is being removed from the answer. And so we're seeing this bump, just like we see a bump in the skin. I got a car accident years ago. I have a scar on my left knee, went underneath the steering wheel, right? So you can see there's a scar there. This is verbal scarring that we're seeing. It's indicating to me there's something that he's leaving out here. It makes sense. He's on the stand. Of course, he's just going to be very direct with his questions. However, he does look down left before he answers, and that's internal dialogue. So he has a conversation with himself, and he goes, yes, this was my only option here. So this right here is indicating there's stuff he's not saying, and I'm not surprised. By the way, even if he's telling the truth here, it doesn't mean what he did wasn't wrong.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to all of this. This is a very nuanced case for this jury to figure out. Brian, anything you noticed in this particular part of his testimony?
Sure. Well, so it's more about his face. So this area right here, he's got what's called a brow ridge, and that is that thick area right here in your eyebrows. And when you see that on someone, that's someone who's very process driven. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So part of the pause for questioning may be that he's replaying each of those steps back in his mind. The other thing he has is he has these Einstein lines across his forehead. When he raises his eyebrows up, you see 3 or 4 of them that are very, very deep. That's someone who does deep, intense study. So that's the way they learn things. So part of the questioning when he's asked those things may be that he's stepping back through his training and what he learned and replaying that process again in his head.
All right, I've one.
You have those Einstein lines. Do you remember?
I do.
Yes, you do.
I talked about them. I don't know if you can see, but Brian analyzed your face earlier. Look at this.
You know, a lot of people in my business get rid of the Einstein lines. They have what do they call it? Bow something.
Botox.
Botox. Yeah, I haven't done that. That's why I'm still studying here. All right, so let's get now to the final clip that we have of Aaron Dean here. Again, still on cross-examination, the toughest part for any witness. Let's watch.
But if you would announce yourself Fort Worth Police, then maybe Tatiana Jefferson would still be alive, correct?
Maybe.
If you would announce yourself, Tatiana Jefferson would still be alive, correct?
I don't know.
You still might have shot her anyway?
It would have depended on if she came out the front with a gun.
Are you telling this jury there might have been a situation where you still might have shot her anyway?
Only if she pointed a gun at me.
All right, we have about a minute left, and I'm almost afraid to go to Janine in case she pulls out another picture of me. But go ahead, Janine.
Okay, these eye closing. I think that even if you're not a body language expert, you see that happening here. And of course, there's a change in its tone and pitch. It gets softer when our tone goes down. It's indicative of sadness. However, 85% of the time when someone's being deceptive, there's a change in our tone and pitch of voice. So we kind of have a counterintuitive thing, two things happening at once right here. So we've got that cognitive dissonance. You decide which one to believe. The narrowing of the eyes is very interesting, Vinny. Even newborn babies who are born blind, when something shocks shocking and horrifying happens in their life as they get older and become children, they cover their eyes. So when we do this eye-blocking behavior, which we're seeing right here with the former officer, this is displeasure, this is high stress, this is upset, this is saying, I feel threatened. This right here, it's I'm troubled and I don't want to be dealing with this right here. So the combination between that and the tone of voice change, there's a lot happening.
There is. And we got a lot of information tonight. Janine Driver, Brian Galke, awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you again really, really soon. When we come back, folks, top of the hour, the Oxford school shooter has been convicted. Now prosecutors are going after his parents. The latest from the courtroom next.
In Oakland County, Michigan, the Oxford school shooter who took the lives of 4 classmates has been convicted of his crimes. But now, prosecutors are going after his parents. Jennifer and James Crumbly have been charged with involuntary manslaughter for their alleged role in the school shooting. And they are still in jail trying to get their bond reduced. Should they be locked up, and can prosecutors actually win this first-of-its-kind case?
I'm 100% confident that we will convict the Crumbleys. I think the evidence is overwhelming.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Amber Heard is appealing her devastating loss against her ex, Johnny Depp. Tonight, our think tank breaks down whether she has any chance. Plus, we get a preview of our 2-night special interview with Johnny Depp's legal team featuring Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu.
I wanted every single question to tie back to something she had said, either in a recording or had testified to under oath.
On the docket tonight in Tallahassee, Florida, the murder-for-hire plot to kill FSU law professor Dan Markell. 3 people have already been convicted, and now finally the man accused of setting up the hit, dentist Charlie Adelson, will face trial. The alleged motive? Kill the professor so his sister would have full custody of their children.
More than 8 years since Dan Markell was brutally murdered outside his home, justice has only been partially served.
Plus, in tonight's Tank Takes, a realtor goes to show a house and finds a pair of trespassers by the pool who just finished having sex. Does this make the property more valuable or more dangerous? Get ready. This hour of closing arguments starts right now.
I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And when we talk about school shooting cases, we see way too many of them, obviously. And every time we cover them, we're like, well, could something have been done to prevent it? That's the inevitable discussion, right? And we know where that always leads, right? You've got one faction wants to ban guns, and they think that's the answer. You've got others who say, well, wait a minute, how about providing better security at the schools? Just the way we protect every courthouse in this country, every federal building in this country, why don't we try to protect our children the same way? And you kind of have these two factions going at it. And I get it. It's a valid discussion that you can have. But there's another avenue here. There's another avenue here on how you prevent these school shootings, which is something being done by the people closest to the shooter. The people who are in their circle, like, parents, perhaps, if they have parents, siblings, friends, whoever. You know, if they had done something or taken some action or noticed something, or maybe didn't do certain things. And we've now reached the point in one of these cases out of Michigan, the Oxford school shooting, where prosecutors say, not only is the shooter responsible for that mass murder, but so are his parents. So are his parents. This is a case unlike any case we've covered involving a school shooting. The parents have been charged with involuntary manslaughter for what they did and did not do, actions they did take, actions they did not take, what they knew, what they said, what they didn't say, all of that. But right now they're locked up. They haven't been able to make bond. They don't have enough money to get out of jail before their trial. So they're back in court for a 6th time trying to get the bond reduced so they can get out.